Welcome back, everybody, to Empyrion Galactic Survival Alpha 12.3. I'm an old guy gaming, and we are going to continue our tutorial series on how to get started here in Empyrion Galactic Survival. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, doesn't take any effort, and it does help the channel grow. If you don't like what you see, please consider leaving me a constructive comment and help me to improve. Okay, let's go ahead and pick up right where we left off. I'm going to go ahead and mine this copper stone here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make our motorcycle first, and let's get our copper in here. We're still pretty low on silicon, so we're going to have to find some more of that, but we're not doing too bad overall in terms of the resources that we have found. Now, before we do anything else, though, let's go ahead and put this steak on our toolbar. Remember, there's two ways that you can eat in Empyrion. You can put the item on your toolbar and just click your left mouse button, or if it's in your inventory or in a container, you can hold shift down and right click on it and you can eat it directly from the inventory itself. We're going to continue making some more of these. Notice I have 7 energy bars, and I want to try, if as much as I can, leave them in the output slot because they will not spoil in the output slot. Notice, though, I'm going to do this just by way of demonstration. Notice that as soon as I click on those and try and move them out, I can no longer put them back in there. Okay, so keep that in mind. Not too worried about energy bars. They do last a long time, and again, we will consume probably all of them before they actually go bad. Okay, so let's do the motorcycle next. So we have our first mode of transportation. The game gave us the motorbike construction kit, but I showed you that if it didn't, if you were like doing a hard start, for example, and it didn't provide it, then you can make it in the portable constructor, assuming you have your 3 basic ores. You're going to need a little bit of iron, a little bit of copper, and a little bit of silicon to make this thing. Actually, I take that. It looks like you only need the iron ingot to make it. So they've really simplified that. So this is the actual motorbike itself. Remember, these are devices, and it shows me that I can make it because I have the required component, which is a motorbike construction kit. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to craft up like super quick in the inventory. Once it's done, you take the motorbike and you put it on your toolbar, and then you can just put it down and you can hop on it, and now you have a faster mode of transportation. Okay, a couple things to know about the motorcycle. It turns terribly. It does not turn as sharp as a motorcycle should turn. Okay? It's terrible on hills, so if you get onto a steep hill, it's really going to bog down. And because you're on a motorcycle and you're out in the open, you have no protection if you get shot by drones or an alien tries to spit acid on you, alien bug spits acid on you, that sort of thing. So just be aware of that. I don't really like the motorcycle. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It just doesn't perform like a motorcycle should, but it is better than walking, right? So it's basically your very first mode of transportation, which you can get almost immediately as soon as you start in the game. Now, the advantage of it is it doesn't require any fuel. Apparently, it has its own nuclear fusion core or something inside of it, so you don't have to worry about fueling it. And so that's a good thing. It's just kind of hard to control. You can't control it with the mouse. You need to use your WASD keys to control it. So again, very early game transportation. It is definitely better than walking, but it leaves something to be desired in terms of actually performing like a motorcycle should perform. Okay, to get off the motorcycle, I just press the F key. Now, there is one thing you do need to be careful of with the motorcycle in this game. If you leave it, if you let it sit out for too long, it'll actually despawn. So what'll happen is, if I don't pick it up within I think it's a couple of minutes, I don't remember what the time is, it'll actually turn into a collapsible form. And then if you don't pick that up within a certain period of time, then it just disappears. So it's generally not a good idea to leave your motorcycle out unless you're planning on getting right back on it very quickly. Okay, and so to pick it up, notice it tells me in the tooltip, I just hold down left shift and click F, and then I can pick it up and put it back on my toolbar. Okay, so that is the motorcycle. We're going to also get the hover vessel going here in just a little bit, and then and that's going to be a little bit better than the motorcycle. So there was one other thing I wanted to show you guys too. that I was going to show you in the last episode, and I started to, and then I kind of got sidetracked. So we talked a little bit about movement, and I explained that if you sprint, hold shift down, you're going to consume calories much more quicker, and your food's going to go down more quickly. I mean, it is important. It's important in every case, really, but it's especially critical that you watch out for that if you're on a planet like the ice planet, where it's going to, your food's going to drop much quicker because you're, fighting against the cold. So just be careful of that. But what you can do if you have to travel a ways on foot is just move forward and do a quick sprint and then a jump. And then, remove your finger from the sprint key. Quick sprint, jump, quick sprint, jump, quick sprint, jump. And as you can see, then I can move fairly quickly, and because I'm just doing very short little sprints by holding down, the sprint key, I'm still moving pretty much as fast, if not faster, than I would if I was just flat out sprinting. But I am saving energy, right? Because it's not using as much energy. Now you would think that it would use more because I'm actually jumping, but the game doesn't count that as expending calories. So that's a very good way to move in the early game. If you have to move on foot somewhere, just do just quick sprint, jump, and of course you can jump by pressing the spacebar. Now you can do something similar to that once you get a jetpack and go even faster and further by the same kind of idea, where you just do a quick sprint and then a jetpack jump, and you go even further out and move even more quickly. But we can't do that yet because we don't have our jetpack yet. Let's go ahead and grab this iron. Quick sprint jump, etc., etc. Okay, remember, if I get away from my portable constructors and I forgot to bookmark them, I can see those on the mini map and also can see them on the main map right here. So the game will mark those for you by default. Once you get the motorcycle, though, especially if you need to travel longer distances, you're going to want to use it instead of your quick sprint jump. But if you're going to travel relatively short distances, I prefer the quick sprint jump method just because it's much more maneuverable. It's really hard to turn that damn motorcycle. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I think, is we're still a little bit shy on silicon, but what I think I'm going to do is let's take a look at our levels. And so right now I'm level 3. Level 3 is the first level that you get to after level 1, where you can actually start learning some more things. So the important things that you're going to want to look at when you hit level 3 are not so much really in the base menu, because most players are not going to already have a base built by the time they hit level 3. Some might, but most of the time, what you're really going to want to look at is your tools and your weapons. And probably not even the tools quite yet. Now, I can get a multi-tool. A multi-tool is like a better version, of the survival tool. But the thing about the multi-tool is that you have to make charges to actually use it, and the charges themselves require promethium, and you don't usually find promethium right at the very beginning of the game. So keep that in mind, because it goes back to what I said, and I think in the last episode, in that, you don't want to learn something until you can actually use it. Because you might be able to take the 3 points it costs to learn this and actually put it into something that's more useful here and now based upon your level. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to look at my weapons. I want a shotgun for sure. Now, be careful with the assault rifle. And the reason for that is that you can't... Okay, hold on a second. Let me look at something. That's right, they changed it. This is actually new. I think this is actually new with Alpha 12.3, as a matter of fact, or maybe it was 12.2. You used to not be able to make the assault rifle in the portable constructor. You had to wait till you got a large, or a small constructor, rather, to make it. But that is a brand new thing. What I was going to say is don't learn the assault rifle now because I can't make it, but that is no longer the case. So it would actually behoove me to learn the assault rifle now, because now I can make it. Now, in regards to ammunition, if a particular weapon requires a certain type of ammunition, and it'll tell you that, in the tooltip here. So, a shotgun obviously takes shotgun shells. As soon as you learn the weapon in the tech tree, then that also unlocks the ammunition, so you can craft that as well. So you don't have to learn the ammunition separately. All right, so we've got 17 points left. I want the assault rifle. Now, here's the thing. As you can imagine, the shotgun's going to be your best weapon up close. It does some pretty damn good damage, but you have to be really close. Be careful with this though, because it has a very slow rate of fire. The assault rifle, the level 1 or the Tech 1 assault rifle, it's not that powerful, but the thing that's good about it is that you can hit things from far away. So let's say that I want to attack that pangolin that's around here. I'm not sure where it went, but it's somewhere over this way. What I would do at this stage in the game, because it's very, very early in the game, and I don't have any armor, and I know that thing could wreck me, is I'm going to get out my assault rifle, and I'm gonna hit it from distance and try and get its health as far down as I can before it closes on me, and then I'll pop out the shotgun to finish it off when it gets within range. Your assault rifles, it's going to be a halfway decent weapon, as well as the T1 shotgun at this stage in the game. Now, obviously, there's going to be much better weapons later on, but for now, those things will serve me pretty well. Much better than this wimpy-ass pistol, and way better than their Survival 2 defense mode. I mean, this thing is just weak sauce. It's better than nothing, but it's pretty damn weak. Okay, so we learned the 2 weapons here. So we learned those. We still have 11 points left. So let's take a look and see what else in level 3 we might learn. We don't want to learn the multi-tool yet because we don't have a way to make the packs for it. We could potentially learn the portable heater generator, and that's something that I can make in my survival constructor. Now, the reason I would do that, I wouldn't do that here, okay? But when you're on, like, the ice planet and you need that heater to survive, sometimes it's useful to make, 2 or 3 of those and put them in different positions around your base, outside of your base, because you can only place them on the ground, so you can move from one position to the next without having to pick up the heater and bring it with you. So, it's very situational, and it's generally not going to be necessary for you to have to use that on, on this planet here, because this is a temperate planet. Okay, so what else? A wireless connector and a ventilator. Again, stuff that we don't really need right now. We will need those later. It's even kind of weird that they put those at level 3 because they're completely useless to us right now. However, hover vessel. Now, this is going to be important. You can start working on, small vessels and hover vessels once you start to get to level 3. You can't really do anything until you get to level 3 because you need a fuel tank, and a generator for those items. In our case, we are actually going to go and repair that damaged hover bike, which is just over yonder there. And so in order to do that, we're going to want to make sure that we have the ability to make a generator for it, and the ability to make a fuel tank. And you know what, too? I just thought of something. We actually can already make the smaller version of those, so I didn't actually need to do that. So that was kind of my bad. But you know what we are going to do, though? We have 9 points. I'm going to get the cargo box, and I'm going to get the fridge. The fridge is important because what I can do is I can make that, and then I can place it down on the hover vessel and then use it to put, perishable items into so that they don't spoil. And then, of course, the cargo box I can use in the very early game to give myself more storage space until we can get into the actual controllers themselves. And, I can learn the controllers now, but I don't have enough points to. That was a bit of a mistake. I should not have learned the generator. I mean, it was only 2 points. It's not going to be a problem in the long run, but those 2 points would have been potentially better served somewhere else. But there really isn't anything else I think that we need right now that would, cost 3 points anyway. So we're in pretty good shape for where we currently are. Okay, so now I have learned the 2 weapons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up a shotty, and I'm going to queue up an assault rifle. That's really cool that we can make this in the portable constructor. Now, again, like I said, that is brand new. And then I want some ammo. Now, be careful with ammo because you have to pay attention to the output count. 1 projectile round actually is equivalent to 50. So if you look at the tooltip, notice it says output count 50. So when every time I click that, that's going to make 50. So what you don't want to do is go hog wild, especially in the early game when resources are limited, and queue up, like 50 of these because, now I've actually queued up, what would that be, 2,500 or, yeah, that would be 2,500 rounds, which is way, way more than I can afford to make or even carry at this point in time. So just pay attention to the pay attention to the output count on this ammo. Okay, notice the shotgun shells. You actually get 30 shells for every one of these. So in this case, you know, shotgun shells require copper and steel plates and nitrocellulose and that sort of thing. I want to be careful because I have very limited resources. So I'm going to actually only make 30 of those to start with too, until I can get a few more resources and then make a little bit more ammunition. Another thing I might want to do is I might want to go ahead and make myself the chainsaw. I'm going to queue that up too, because then I can use that to get wood, and it's going to be faster and more efficient than using the survival tool. Because remember, I want to keep pumping wood into this guy. In fact, we're already out, so it can continue to make the biofuel. The biofuel is your first level of fuel in the game, and you're going to need it for the chainsaw. You're going to need it to power your hover vessel, your base, basically anything that requires fuel in the early game until you can come across to Promethium. Okay, so we want to keep this guy, continually keep this guy making more and more fuel, and try and keep it going nonstop if you can. Okay, it's really dark out. Now, we already know that we can set the tent down and sleep till morning, which we're probably actually going to do just so you guys can see better on the video, but notice that I also have the ability to make a light here in the survival constructor. So that's going to actually be under the tools and weapons. And until I get myself a suit, it actually is useful to make the flashlight, so that way if I'm out and about at night and I need to see what the hell I'm doing, I can use this light. So I'm going to make that. It's very inexpensive to make, and that way we'll have it. And then once we get the suit, then we'll have a shoulder light on the suit, and then we won't need the handheld light anymore, even though the handheld light's actually a little bit better than in terms of the area that it lights up than the suit light. Okay, so this stuff is in the output, so let's go ahead and put this stuff on our toolbar. So what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to use the pistol. It is all but worthless, guys. It really is. It's just terrible. Take my word for that. So I'm not going to use the pistol. We're just going to put it in here for now for storage. I'm going to put the shotgun in slot 1. And now actually I'm going to put the assault rifle in slot 1, shotgun in slot 2. We're going to move the multi-tool to 3, and then just kind of shift everything over. You can put these anywhere you want to, obviously on your toolbar, but that's kind of the place that I like to put it. Let's put the chainsaw in 6, because this is not something I'm going to carry around with me all the time. I'm just going to use it a little bit here and there. And then we're going to put the ammunition into our inventory. We should move this stuff. Actually, let's keep those in our inventory so we can keep cranking out more Cliff Bars here. And this, you know, we're just gonna eat. We could probably, yeah, it doesn't matter. I think these will spoil if we keep them in here too. They won't spoil if you keep them in the output. So I believe that the portable constructor works exactly the same way as your survival constructor. If you keep them in the output, they don't spoil. But obviously, you know, we can't do that because we've already taken them out. We had to because we needed to eat them. Okay, so we've got our light. Just to kind of show you, the light actually lights up a pretty nice area. So it's very bright and very useful until you can get that shoulder light on your suit. Okay, but we're just going to sleep till morning. So again, we do that. We just come up to the tent. We press F. We sleep till morning. Anything that we had queued up would be made. Now, I actually made a little bit of a mistake here. What I should have done, and what I probably would have done if I was just playing the game and not, you know, trying to think about what I'm doing in a tutorial, is what I should have done, guys, before I slept, right? Is I should have taken the chainsaw and I should have went out and cut a bunch of wood and filled this up. And so when the time passed overnight, looks like we lost our meat there. When our time passed overnight, it would have made a whole bunch of fuel for us, and it would have, from our perspective, it would have been, you know, instant. So I kind of screwed up there. I should have done that, but you know, if you're going to use the tent to sleep overnight, as much as possible, try and have stuff queued up in your survival constructor so that when you wake up in the morning, it'll be done for you. Okay, now, we're going to go ahead and actually get some wood now anyway, because we want to keep this thing going. So while we're gone, I'm going to go ahead and queue up the 2 things that I need for the hover bike. Okay, and so I want to make sure that I'm on the hover bike, or the hover vessel rather, button here. And what that does is it filters the menu and only shows me hover vessel items. I happen to know, because I've done it a few times now, that the hover bike requires, is missing a small generator and it's missing a fuel tank. So I'm going to queue those up now so they can start making while we're out getting wood. You would also know that in your own game if you followed the tutorial, because the tutorial will actually lead you to the hover bike fairly early on and show you where it is and say, hey, this is a hover bike, you better fix it up and use it, you know, or you can fix it up and use it, and it walks you through that. But since I already know that, I'm just going to save us a little bit of time and make those components while we're out getting wood. While we're out getting wood, we're also going to see if we can find some more silicon. Let's make a little bit more ammunition. I actually want more than just 50 because those won't last very long in our automatic weapon here. So to do that, I want to make sure that I'm on weapons, but I have to go back to the all objects filter. Right now I'm on hover vessel. This is important. This will throw you off sometimes when you're new to the game. You're like, well, wait a minute, I'm on weapons and items, but I'm not seeing anything. Well, it's because you have filtered it for hover vessels. So you want to go back to the all items, and now I can see them again. So this is an output count of 50. I'm going to hold shift down and click, and that's going to queue up 10. That's actually 500 rounds, right? Because remember, this is an output count of 50. So shift click queues up 10, control click will queue up 100 items. Very important when you want to make stuff in mass, okay? So we'll let that stuff, you know, cook up while we're out and about. We're going to leave those in the output for now. We don't need to do anything with them quite yet. We learned that it's, at least on the temperate planet here, you're more likely to find silicon down by water, so we're going to take our bike. We also know that there's some nasty creatures here. The telepods, there's one right there, that might eat us, and so, you know, if we get into a little bit of trouble, we can use the bike for a quick escape. What I will do is I'll pick it up, I'll leave it right on my toolbar, and then I'll do my thing, and then if I need to make a quick getaway, I just select it, plop it down, hop on it, and get the hell out of Dodge. Okay? So let's hop off and keep that ready. Now, we're going to kill this telepod because we want the meat and the milk from it and the XP. So we're going to load up our assault rifle, and we're also going to load up our shotgun. When you're playing on normal difficulty, you can kill these things pretty easy with 1 or 2 shots from the shotty, but let's go ahead and soften it up a little bit first with our assault rifle. Yeah, this is just a level 1. I mean, we'll take it out with the assault rifle. Really easy kill, and look at that. We reached level 4. Good for us. It gave us 20 more points. Okay, so if I walk up to this this guy, and you can do this with just about anything in the game that you can loot. There's another one way over there. Is he coming this way? He is now. Okay. In the lower left-hand corner, I don't know if you saw it or not, if you need to back up the video a little bit, but it showed me that I got 500 XP for that kill, too. So killing creatures is the next best way, or the next level, next stage that you want to go to, is what I'm trying to say, to level after picking plants. So picking plants is the first thing you do. Killing creatures is even better. And then, you know, you're going to get the resources from the creature too. All right, so here's what I want to show you. If I go up to this creature, the tooltip says press F, and I'll open the inventory, and I'll be able to drag out or shift click out the meat and the milk that's in here. But if I need to loot something quickly, if I hold down shift and F, then what it does is it just auto loots that for me. So it just opens it up really quickly, and it places the milk and the meat right into my inventory, and it's very handy for quickly looting stuff. Okay, so shift F to quickly loot something. Let's do that, the same thing here. Shift F, and boom, it loots it for me quickly. Okay, we have some silicon here, so let's go ahead and mine this. We want to make sure that this is on resource drill. Later on, when we hit level 7 in the game, assuming we have all the resources and all the right equipment, we'll be able to make ourselves a real drill, which is going to be far, far better than this. But for now, this is what we're stuck with. Those telepod creatures that we just killed, they are the only hostile water creature in the game. So if you're out in the water, later on, once we get a suit and a helmet so that we can actually breathe underwater, we can go underwater in this game, and there's resources under the water too. There's seaweed that you can pick for plant protein. There's what are called alien plasmas that you use for medical. Sometimes you can find pentaxid stones and promethium stones under the water. So there's resources in the water. Plus, it's really cool. You know, Empyrion's always been neat in the underwater environment, and I've always wished and hoped that maybe someday they'll do more with that in this game. But, you know, it is really more of a space-focused game. But that being said, the water does look really good, and we'll look at that later when we can breathe underwater. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is those telepod dudes, they will attack you in the water, so you got to be careful. The good news about them, though, is they don't really seem to swim on the surface. They'll stay on the bottom. So as long as you're in deep enough water and stay above them, they can't get you. But if you're down walking along the bottom here, there's some more silicon. There's a bunch of silicon. See what I said? Lots of silicon in and near the water. There's a whole bunch of it all over the place here. As long as you're up above it, he can't hit you. But if you're down on the floor, then it'll actually come and try and eat you under the water. So you got to be careful with those things. Okay, so if you find resources under the water, you can mine them. There's something really important you need to know about underwater, especially before you get oxygen. See, it's telling me no oxygen, wear your helmet may help. In just a moment, I'm going to start suffocating here. Now, if I try and surface, I can't. I'm going, oh shit, I'm stuck. I can't get up to the surface to catch a breath of air. What you want to do in that situation is you want to make sure that you're not holding anything in your hand, because as soon as you put something in your hand, you will sink to the bottom of the water, okay? And you'll if you look on my toolbar, you'll notice that the 0 key shows the picture of the hand. Talk to the hand. That will basically holster whatever it is I'm holding, and then once I do that, then I can swim in the water. If I press the V key, and we'll kind of cover this in a little more later too, but the V key is third-person view. And it's really fun to swim around in the water in third-person view, because then you can kind of see your character swimming and see, well, shit, the water and that sort of thing. But as you can see, oh, there's a telepod right there. Look at that bastard, man. He wants to eat me for lunch. As you can see, you can't last underwater for very long at all without oxygen. I mean, your player can't really even hold his breath as long as a human being could in real life. Well, I suppose it's maybe equivalent. It depends upon the person, I suppose. But anyway, just be really careful in the water in the early game before you have a helmet and can breathe underwater, because you can't last very long. The most important thing I can tell you is if you hold something in your hand, you're going to sink to the bottom and you can't get up. Press the O key and then you can surface and take a breath. All right. I am more or less trying to avoid going underwater in this game until I actually get the the helmet so I can breathe underwater, because it functions underwater just like it would in space, of course. When we do get that, like I said, we'll actually go all the way out into the deep water, and I'll show you some of the cool stuff under the water, but we don't want to do that now. It's too dangerous. Okay, so what are we doing? We killed a couple telepods. I kind of showed you some real basic stuff about the water. Let's go ahead and pop our motorcycle down, and I want to just drive around a little bit more and see if we can find a couple more things of a silicon. Notice if you look in the upper right hand corner of my screen, notice that it says we're in the swamp edge biome. So this is kind of a marshy, swampy type of biome here that we're at. This stuff on the ground here is fire moss scrapings. It is also a medical ingredient, so we want to pick that and use it. I thought, didn't we just pass the silicon stone, or was I? That's the confetti moss there. I wonder if I just saw that stuff in the corner of my eye and thought it was a silicon stone. That's probably what happened. Let's take a look over here. I think we already talked about these. Those are herbal leaves, so we're going to pick those. This can help us, with stomach problems early on if we eat something and it makes us upset. I'm not going to grab any iron right now. We're doing pretty good on iron for the moment. So yeah, I'm not seeing any more silicon. We did find that stuff in the water, but I kind of don't want to go back out there with our telepod friend floating around waiting to try and get a bite out of our ass. Here we go. Let's get this silicon stone here. Good. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves some wood so we can get our fuel production back going here. Now we're in the swamp biome proper. Again, I can tell that by looking in my upper right hand corner. It tells me that I'm in the swamp biome. So basically, we're going to come up to a tree. This is another resource. It is a natural stimulant. If I pick it, and it basically looks like coffee beans, and I can make what's called a hot drink from it, and that then will allow me to use coffee for stamina boost and also for temperature control, though it's not particularly useful in my opinion. Only because it doesn't last very long. Those critters over there that you see, those are called lizard mules. They are passive. They're kind of like the cattle of the game. And you can hunt those guys, and they will give you meat and milk just like the telephods will. So and pretty decent XP. So once you get to the point where you can actually do some hunting, you know, those are good prey to go after. We're not going to mess with them right now. This is this little puffball thing actually gives me vegetables, believe it or not. You would think that this thing would give plant protein, but it doesn't. It gives vegetables. And that, you know, veggies, of course, are another ingredient that we would use for cooking stuff. So let's go here, and we're going to use the chainsaw on this tree. Now, the one thing about the chainsaw that's different from the survival tool is the survival tool will put the wood directly into my inventory when it finishes harvesting the tree. It just takes 10 times longer. The chainsaw requires me to pick the item up, but it's much faster than the survival tool. So it drops the logs on the ground, and then I just press F to pick them up and put them into my inventory. So we got 3 logs out of that particular tree. And, you know, there's a little bit of an RNG thing going on with the trees. Sometimes you'll get 2 logs, sometimes you'll get up to 5 logs. It just depends, you know, and sometimes you'll only get 1. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to the actual size of the tree itself like you think it would. Okay, and you do, of course, get some XP for cutting wood. The game doesn't show you that in the tooltip. There's some mushrooms which are another ingredient for medical items and whatnot. But you do actually get XP for cutting wood. It just doesn't show you that in the tooltip. So let's take a quick look at that. We're going to do our hot sprint and jump little maneuver here. And if we look at our XP right now on our stats tab, notice we're at 2,676 XP. Okay, now let's cut the tree here. Oh, I take that back. It does tell you now that the XP. It just popped up down below. That's new too. That used to not be there, so they must have recently added that. At least in Alpha 12, if not 12.2 or 3. Okay, good to know, good to know. See, even I'm learning stuff. Isn't this great? We're all getting smarter together. I love it. Okay, so we have some wood now, so we're going to go back to our survival constructors here, and we're going to plop pretty much all this wood into here, and then we're going to just queue up a whole shitload of biofuel and let that continue making that. Okay, we're going to put the meat and all of the perishable items in here. Not that the constructor is going to keep them, but we're just going to get them out of our inventory. And because we got some more meat, we're going to go to our food template, and we're going to queue up some, just some more steak. That's really the best thing. Steak is good for eating at your base, but it gives you the most nutrition out of everything in the very early game, but it also spoils quickly. So you're going to be better off making energy bars for longer term food. But steak, if it's something that you're going to eat here at your base, okay? And of course, the raw meat's going to spoil quickly too. So we're going to just convert all that into steak and eat it up. And notice I can also make vegetable juice. Now, vegetable juice will give you 43 health, and it gives you a stamina, but it does lower your body temperature. We can make that because we found those veggies. We picked these veggies here. So that can also be an early game health thing. Just be careful taking this if you're in a cold environment because it does lower your body temperature. Okay, let's put the silicon and the iron and really all of this stuff in here, except for we're going to keep that plant protein in our inventory and just keep cranking out the cliff bars here. Now, notice that some of our stuff spoiled. So pretty much almost in most cases, anything that's organic is spoilable. So mushrooms, meat, food, plants that you pick, all of that stuff will eventually spoil. These are not spoilable because they're sprouts, so they're considered like seeds. So these will not spoil. We got those from that locker. And, stuff like alien teeth, alien parts, this stuff will spoil too. So that stuff won't spoil. So really, if you don't know, just hover the cursor over it. And if you see a perish time on there, then you know that it is in fact going to spoil. Okay, so keep all that stuff in mind. All right, guys, we're getting actually to the point where we're kind of running out of time. Now, remember, if I keep this grilled steak in the output of the constructor, it should not actually spoil if I can keep it in there. It's just as soon as I move it out, that's when it's going to start to spoil. So before we wrap up this episode, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and grab the generator and the fuel tank, because I know, again, those are the two things that we're going to need to get that hover vessel. And we also have 6 things of biofuel, which will be, let's actually grab all the biofuel. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the hover bike, the damaged hover bike. We're going to plop down the generator and the fuel tank, fill it up, and then we're going to drive it back to our little camp location, and then we'll wrap up this episode. Now remember, if you're doing this by yourself and you're following the tutorial itself is going to point you in the direction and help you find that hover bike and tell you how to fix it up. But since we already know that, we're just going to go ahead and do it directly ourselves. So we'll get over here. And once we get the hover bike going, we're going to throw the motorcycle away. We just won't need it after that. Well, we probably won't throw it away. We'll probably keep it in our inventory for emergency situations, but we won't use it. All right, guys, this is a very small, what's really a hover vessel, but the game calls it a hover bike because it's, kind of like a, like a very small hover bike, like a Star Wars kind of idea, right? But it's been damaged. We don't know how it's been damaged. The storyline doesn't tell you how it was damaged, but it has been damaged, and so it's missing some components. Now, let's just say, for the sake of the tutorial, that I didn't know what it was missing. And so what you can do is you can get to the hover bike, just get it right up next to it, or you can even jump in the cockpit if you want to. So I'm going into the third person view, and again, we will talk about the different views and all that stuff in the next episode. We'll cover that stuff later. But basically, you can see that I'm now sitting in the cockpit. But what I want to do now is I want to hit the P key, because that opens up the control panel. We learned that in the last episode, and it gives me all kinds of information about the bike. Now, I want to know what it's missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Devices, and it's going to tell me right up here at the top in this bold yellow text what the hover vessel is missing. It doesn't have a generator, so it doesn't have any kind of a power plant, and it doesn't have a fuel tank. So in order for us to get this operational, we need to put those things on the vessel. And again, we already knew that in advance because we've already done it, but the tutorial will help you with that in case you did not know it. But so if you ever, want to know what a vessel or a base might be missing, you can tell that from going into the control panel by pressing P, hitting the Devices tab, and it'll tell you up at the top what that device or that base needs in order to become operational. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab the little generator and put it on our toolbar. Now, inside of the hover vessel, there's a lot of room in here, and so I'm just going to take the generator, and it appears on my screen as a little block. In another episode, we will talk all about everything you need to know about working with blocks and how to position them and that sort of thing. But right now, all I'm going to do is just take this generator, and I'm going to pop it right down in that little slot there where there's some room for it. We're going to do the same exact thing with the fuel tank. So we're going to take the fuel tank, put that on our toolbar, and we're going to plop that right down in that hole. Now, if I look at my P menu, Devices, I have everything I need because there's no longer anything up there that says, in yellow text that, it's missing. We have the fuel tank, we have the generator, we have our repulsor engines, which are basically like your early game hover engines. We've got an O2 tank, not that we really need to worry about that here. We've got the core, which is kind of like the brains or the computer of the device. We have a cargo box, and we have a cockpit and a light too. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hop in the seat here. Again, we're going to press P. You will become intimately familiar with the P key in this game because it is the main key that's going to open up your control panel. So P for panel, keep that in mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the main tab, and we're going to access the fuel, and we're going to click Manage. We're going to drag and drop the fuel into here to put fuel into the hover vessel. Okay, once we have that fueled up, now it's time to turn this thing on and drive it. There's 2 ways that you can do that. You can turn it on by the little power switch here, Or the quick way to turn on a vessel or a base in the game is the Y key. If I press Y, it turns it on. We'll just zoom in a little bit. I'll teach you how to do all that stuff later. Okay, so a hover vessel, as you can imagine, is something that hovers above the ground. If you're using one with these green repulsor engines, you can only raise up 1 meter off the ground. If you're using normal hover engines, then you can actually go 3 meters off the ground and get quite a bit higher. But with this one, you can only go 1 meter, but it's adequate for what we need to do. So you basically just use your WSAD keys to move, and you use your mouse or your arrow keys to turn. Okay, so that's your yaw basically with a hover vessel. Now, here's a really, really important key that you're going to use in hover vessels and you're going to use in aircraft or spacecraft. It doesn't matter what it is, small vessel, capital vessel, hover vessel. If you get out of, if you're not level, if you want to level out in the game, you can do that quickly by holding the O key. So the O key on the game will instantly level me out in my vessel. Okay, so remember that. It's something you're going to use all the time. I can try and manually, level out, and I can get pretty good, but if I want to be perfectly level, the O key is what's going to do it. One thing to understand about a hover vessel, assuming that it's well balanced, is that, it's gonna kind of use the terrain that it's going over to determine its actual, level. So if I'm on a steep incline, the hover vessel is going to kind of, try and match that to a certain point. Whereas if I want to be perfectly straight, all I need to do is hold the O key down, and then it'll make me perfectly straight. As soon as I remove the O key, see how it starts to tilt? Now that's also going to be affected probably even more so by the actual balance of the vessel. Weight definitely matters, and the smaller the vessel, the more important it actually is. So for example, I could put a lot of heavy stuff in the back end of the vessel and not much in the front, and then it's actually going to tip up and it's going to be rear heavy. So that's really important with hover vessels. Okay, there's a lot more that we are going to cover with hover vessels and with small vessels and that sort of thing in another episode. Right now, I just wanted to kind of get this thing up and running and get it back to our little camp here, which is right over here. And now, guys, we have a much better mode of transportation that actually has some storage in it that we can get around. Now, this thing scoots along pretty good, right? It goes 49 meters per second, and you can really move with it. So it's far, far superior to the motorcycle for getting around. And that's why it's really important that you get it, you find it, and then you get it fixed up so that you can use it as soon as possible here in the early game. Okay, when I get to my camp now, I want to go ahead and kind of park the vessel. So what I can do is I can hold the C key down, and it'll lower it down all the way to the ground. And then once I get it down to the ground, what you can do with any vessel is, in some cases, you might want to keep it powered up, particularly if you have, say, like a refrigerator, and you want to keep your stuff from spoiling. What you can do is you can go into your main menu, and you can just turn off the stuff that you don't need. In our case, we don't want the thrusters on. We don't need turrets and weapons on. We can turn all this stuff, but keep the actual main power on in order to continue powering our refrigerator, right? Notice that right now I have 7 hours and 30 minutes of power left because it's barely just sitting here turned on with nothing on. It's not really doing anything to speak of, so it'll last quite some time. However, if I turn on the thrusters, it should update. Okay, well, we can see it with the lights. So notice as soon as I turn the headlight on, it starts to use more power, and therefore we have less power overall left because it's going to consume it more quickly. You can also kind of see that down here on this power meter as well. So, that didn't dip down far enough to change from 3%, but it did dip just a little bit. So with this, we don't have a shield, so we don't have to worry about that. There's not any signals. We don't currently have any turrets or weapons. However, later on we can put those on here if we want to, and those will use power. Thrusters apparently don't matter on this particular vessel because they don't correlate to hover engines. And then an auto brake is kind of like just your inertials. And so most of this stuff is really pretty insignificant right now in terms of power consumption. The only thing that really does make any difference at all is the lights, right here. So in this case, what I would do is I would turn the lights off, but keep the rest of the power on so that my refrigerator can continue to run. What if I wanted to know about information about the repulsor engines? Well, in that case, I can go into device, I can select the repulsor engine, and I can take a look at, you know, what it does. So basically, this repulsor engine uses 25 power units. Now, I could turn them off from here, so, you know, or you could disable the whole group from here. So that's another thing. I wonder, does that make any difference, though? So the power left is 736, and then if we turn these off, it's now 735. It's almost insignificant, guys. They use so much, you know, so little power that it hardly even matters, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's how you could actually turn those off specifically, by selecting the group and then using this key to turn them off or on. Okay, guys, I think that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. What we will do in the next episode is we're going to probably start thinking about finding a place to live, an actual base location. So I think that's probably the main thing that we'll work on in the next episode. But for now, we have 4 things of wood in here, and we've queued up a bunch of fuel. Just to demonstrate this, if I go ahead and sleep now, and if I was doing this for realsies, I'd go out and get a shitload more wood before I actually slept. But just to demonstrate, if we go ahead and sleep now till morning, okay, this should be completely done, and we now have 25 units of fuel. So that's the cool thing about sleeping overnight, is that you can fast track, you know, some of your crafting here. But guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share out the video. And in the next episode, we're going to look for a place to live. See ya.